Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today I will explain about topic 13, which is translation and interpreting. Let's take a look at the translation first. Translation is a procedure where an original text, or which often called as the source text, is replaced by another text in another language, which is often called as the target text. Translation of um, have divided opinions about them, positively and negatively. Positively, translation be seen can provide access to new ideas and new experiences that stem from a different language, and also to open a new horizons that would remain unknown behind the barrier of foreign language. But the negative side is translated text can never be the real thing. Uh, or you can say it's like a second-hand product, and also inferior substitute for the original text. Translators need to pay attention to pragmatic equivalent and semantic equivalent when they uh, translate a text. Semantic equivalent is when the content of original text need to be kept equivalent in the translated text. In other words, we need to translate the words with the exact meaning of from the source language to the target language. And the pragmatic equivalent is it characterizes the way language is used in a text, and in other words, it's about the context. There are two phases of translation process. The first one, the translator need to understand and interpret the source of the text, and the second one, translator's interpretation is rendered in the target language. Then let's take a look to interpreting, or often called as oral translation. The differences between translation and interpreting is uh, translation is usually in a written form, but interpreting usually in a spoken form. So interpreting more like to understanding the meaning of the text. There are several types of interpreting. The first one is conference interpreting. Uh, it's often seen as the most prestigious and the most financially rewarding type of interpreting. It usually used in some kind of conference, like in international conference or a national one, where the interpreter also has to know and have knowledge about the topic that being taught. So not everyone can do this kind of interpreting. Second one is simultaneous interpreting, is where when the interpret in translate the speech right away when at the same time as the speech is made, and it delivers right away to the speaker. So usually interpreter sits in a booth wearing headphones with a microphone. They listen to the speaker through the headphones and then deliver the translation to the other with a microphone. Usually, this kind of interpret do not do it for more than 30 minutes at a time, because it takes so much concentration and ability and energy to keep up with all uh, all of that. So it's really a tiring job, to be honest. So sometimes the interpret also wait for more information to give correct interpretation. Sometimes they also predict the next word or phrases the speaker will going to say. Then we also have consecutive consec- consecutive interpreting. Uh, Usually, this kind of interpretation, interpret usually listen to the whole speech first, then they take notes, and then they deliver the speech the translation right away. Um, then the next one is whispered interpreting. Uh, it's not exactly the interpret whisper with each other. It's more like using a low voice. It usually uses in like informal meeting or like in school when one parent can understand this language. The next one is bilateral or license interpreting, or often called as ad hoc interpreting. So uh, in this interpreting, the interpret usually the interpreters usually use two languages to more to deliver to two or more people. Usually used in like a business or economic meeting thing. Then a site translation. So they need to read the document and translate it out loud, and usually happens in like a workplace where in a meeting and something like that. Then we also have like telephone interpreting, sign language interpreting, television interpreting, video conference interpreting, and wiretapping and tape transcription. Then let's talk about computer or machine translation versus human translation. Um, in nowadays, machine translation also needs further editing or post editing by an actual human translator or by editor. This machine translation is very useful for highly specialized scientist texts for when the exact wording is less important than quickly getting access the meaning of a text, and as long as the scientists can understand what it means, and they so that doesn't matter. And machine translation also allow the human translation to focus in more interesting and creative way of translation process instead of the repetitive part of the process, like the problem solving part or something like that. In nowadays, scientists changed the system of machine translation from rules-based approaches to statistic-based system. They usually takes as many as possible data from internet and then take them into the uh, system to train translation system. For example, we know all like Google Translate, right? So we use it every day. It's not perfect, but it's enough for us to understand and use it. Like it's usable. And machine translation will keep only developing from now on, but uh, it's not likely will completely take over the human translation job, because at least not for every kind of text. This machine translation is good for specialized technical texts like market report, sales, financial statistics, but not good for literary or other creative writing. I think that's all I can explain for today, and thank you for listening. And I'm sorry for any mistakes. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.